Hindu scriptures, such as manuscripts and historical literature, are related to diverse traditions within Hinduism. The text consists of extensive religious writings and oral accounts which were passed along from one generation to the next. The primary ones include Vedas, Puranas, Itihasas. There are two main categories of the Hindu scriptures. Shruti, that which is heard, consists of the four Vedas and Upanishad scriptures. Smriti, that which is remembered, composed of traditional texts, including the Dharma Shastra, that is legal and ethical texts, the Puranas, and the Itihas, historical, known as the Mahabharata and Ramayana. Hindu texts also covered a wide variety of topics like theology, philosophies, music, arts, mathematics, astronomy, medicines, etc. So, not all of these texts are religious in nature, but also provide life lessons and practical knowledge for the whole of humanity. Vedas. The Vedas are the oldest sacred text of India, the Bharat. The meaning of Veda is vision or knowledge in Sanskrit. There is no definite timeline to determine the age of the Vedas, as they are composed over a period of time, and before that, we are being passed through word of mouth. Most historians consider them to be composed between 5000 and 1500 BC. There are four Vedas, namely Rigveda, Samveda, Yajurveda, and Atharva-Veda. The entire Vedic literature, the Samhitas, the Brahmanas, the Aranyakas, and the Upanishads, is considered Shruti, what is heard, and has been preserved orally. Several of these works, notably the three oldest Vedas, Rig, Sam, Yajur, are recited with rhythm and proper pitch for each syllable that has been handed down orally from the early days of Vedic period in India. These Vedas are said to be conveyed to rishis by God and were skillfully created by rishis, also known as sages, after inspired creativity, just as a carpenter builds a chariot. Hence, what the Vedas say about God is a perfect reference source for spiritual knowledge. Since they have been manifested by God, they are considered the most sacred amongst the Hindu scriptures and are given the highest place. These Vedas are the ultimate authority on Hinduism. Bhutam Bhavyam Bhavishyam Cha Sarvam Vedat Prasidhyati. Any spiritual principle is only acceptable if it is in conformity with the Vedas. About 5000 years ago, the sage Krishna Devapana, better known as Vyas or Veda Vyas, put the same Vedic knowledge down in writing. He also divided the Vedas, which was one body of knowledge, into four parts. As a result, he came to be known as Vedvyas, or the one who separated the Vedas into different parts. They were composed in an archaic language named Vedic Sanskrit that gradually evolved into classical Sanskrit. The Vedas are Sanatan or eternal, just as God Himself is eternal. Therefore, the path to God realization that the Vedas describe is called Sanatan Dharma or eternal religion. Rigveda. Rigveda boasts of 10 books, 1028 hymns, comprising more than 10,600 verses as composed by the sages. The hymns are dedicated to Rigvedic deities, asking them for help and benefits like health, wealth, and long life. The most prominent deity is Indra, Lord of heavens and rain, Agni, the sacrificial fire and messenger of the gods, and Soma, the ritual drink dedicated to Indra. Additional principal deities in Rigveda are Mitra, Varun, that is water god, Surya, that is sun god, etc. These hymns are called riks. Hence, the Veda is also called Rigveda or Rigveda. Besides hymns of praise, the mantras contain blessings and curses. Originally, the mantras were meant to be chanted as part of religious rituals, and this was the main way in which the people communicated with the gods. The Rig Veda is said to be the Veda of mantra. Mantra is the foundation of Vedic yoga, the oldest form of yoga. The Rig Veda contains the oldest iterations of many Sanskrit mantras. All aspects of Vedic science for healing and spiritual strength, such as the practice of yoga, meditation, and Ayurveda, are found in Rig Veda, and many of his teachings are still being used in the practices today. Samveda, Veda of chants, or even yoga of song. It is basically the words of the Rig Veda put to music. The Samveda is the Veda of melodies and chants. Samveda should not be read or recited, but sung. It contains about 1875 verses, all except 75 of them taken from the Rig Veda. Vedic scholar David Frawley describes Samveda as follows. If Rig Veda is the word, Samveda is the song. If Rig Veda is the knowledge, Samveda is the realization. If Rig Veda is the wife, Samveda is the husband. Frawley also used the term Vedic yoga for yoga based on the Vedas. According to him, Samveda represents the mind and heaven. The Samveda set important foundations for the subsequent Indian music. The Samveda, like other Vedas, contains several layers of text, with Samhita being the oldest and Upanishads the youngest layer. Samveda Samhita is not meant to be read as a text. It is like a musical score sheet that must be heard. Two primary Upanishads of Hinduism are embedded inside the Samveda, the Chandogya Upanishad and the Kena Upanishad. Both are notable for the lifting metric melodic structure, but it is Chandogya which has played a historic role in the evolution of various schools of Hindu philosophy. Adi Shankara, for example, cited Chandogya Upanishad 810 times in his Vedanta Sutra Bhasya, more than any other ancient text. Yajurveda. The Yajurveda deals with rituals and collections for public worship. At the heart of the Vedic tradition is a system of sacrifices, each of which depends upon invocations of specific deities. The Yajurveda prescribes these rituals, which are performed alongside the melodic chants of the Samveda. Yajurveda has 40 chapters, or 40 adhyayas, and 1975 verses, that is, 1975 mantras. Each of the four Vedas is assigned a specific Hindu priest: Hota for Rig Veda, Adhurvya for Ajurveda, Udgata for Samveda, and Brahman for Atharva-Veda. Although each priest plays an essential role in the religious rituals, the Atharva-Veda functions as executive priest, reciting from the Yajurveda to assign sacrificial duties to the Yajmana, that is, ritual patron, and other priests. The Yajurveda is divided into two parts: the white or pure Yajurveda, known as Shukla, and the black or dark Yajurveda, known as Krishna. The white Yajurveda deals with prayers and specific instructions for devotional sacrifices, whereas the black Yajurveda deals with sacrificial rituals. The Vedas were originally transmitted by word of mouth before being edited by various schools known as shakhas. Of all four Vedas, the Yajurveda gathered the largest amount of schools, further dividing the Shukla and Krishna Yajurveda into the following Samhitas, that is, verses. Despite being based on the older Rigveda, Yajurveda differs in that it exclusively describes the technicalities of sacred rituals and ceremonies. Some of the verses are devoted entirely to ritual instruments and offerings, most of which symbolize certain aspects of Brahman, that is, universal consciousness. Atharva-Veda. Atharva-Veda is a collection of 20 books with a total of 730 hymns of about 6,000 stanzas. The text deals with the beliefs and rituals, addressing practical issues of the daily life of the Vedic society. The books contain hymns, chants, spells, and prayers, and involves issues such as healing of illnesses, prolonging life, black magic, and rituals for removing maladies and anxieties. Unlike the other three Vedas, the Atharva-Veda is not as concerned with sacred rituals, but addresses the daily problems of the Vedic people. The hymns in the Atharveda are dedicated to prolonging life and healing illnesses, seeking cures from herbs, gaining a lover or partner, or world peace, and the nature of good and evil. Originally, only the first three Vedas were recognized and accepted, with the Atharveda eventually being accepted later on. This Veda is the origin of medicine, Tantra, and Yoga, containing one of the earliest references to breathing techniques and the practice of yoga. Each Veda is primarily divided into two main sections. Karmakand. This section deals with the pursuit of security and pleasure through action, that is karma. Janan Kanda. This section is focused on the pursuit of knowledge itself. The subject matter of Jnana Kanda is subtle and requires a calm and concentrated mind. So, the first section of the Veda, the Karma Kand, helps us gain such a mind. Various actions, such as karma, are mentioned in Karma Kanda, which helps one purify his or her mind. A religious life lived according to Karma Kanda makes one ready to receive the wisdom contained in the Jnana Kanda. The Vedas have another type of division wherein each Veda is divided into two sections called Samhita, that is mantras, and Brahmana, that is rituals. The Brahmana portion includes within itself two more sections called Aranika and Upanishads. Samhita. These contain hymns or mantras addressed to various celestial gods and to the Supreme Lord. Brahmana. These describe the rituals such as the yajnas or fire sacrifices, in which these hymns are employed, guides to rituals and prayers for priests. Aranaka. These discuss the meanings of the rituals and lead to philosophic inquiry, principles of worship, and meditation. Upanishad. These are the philosophical texts revealing knowledge of God, teachings of the mystical and philosophical elements of Hinduism. Brahmanas are the interpretation and commentaries on Samhita, part of Vedas. Brahmanas constitute Aranika at the end, and Aranika constitute Upanishads at the end. In other words, Brahmanas are extensions to Samhita. Aranika are extracted from Brahmanas, and Upanishads are extracted from Aranika. So these four sections of Vedas are interlinked. Also, Rigveda, Samveda, Yajurveda, and Atharveda, with Samhita, Brahmana, Aranika, and Upanishads, are Shruti texts to be heard, not authored. If the Samhita is linked to a tree, the Brahmanas are its flowers, and the Aranikas are its fruit, yet not ripened, and Upanishads are the ripe fruits. So, for consuming the vast knowledge of Vedas, consume Upanishads.